Yamato, the giant battleship. The Yamato was built in 1937 by the Japanese Navy during World War II. Japan created this massive battleship because they wanted the strongest warship in the world. They wanted a ship so powerful that enemy fleets would fear it before the battle even started. And Yamato was truly a monster. It was over 260 meters long and carried some of the biggest guns ever placed on a ship. These giant cannons were so large that a person standing next to them would look like a tiny ant standing beside a skyscraper. The ship was like a floating castle covered with thick armor and powerful weapons. Its giant shells could travel more than 40 kilometers and destroy enemy ships from a huge distance. But there was one big problem. The world was changing, and the aircraft carriers were becoming more important than battleships. Planes could attack ships from far away before the ships could even get close. In 1945, American aircraft attacked Yamato and sent the giant battleship to the bottom of the ocean. Today, Yamato is remembered as one of the greatest engineering achievements and also a lesson that bigger does not always mean better. USS Enterprise, the floating airport. The USS Enterprise was built in 1938 by the United States Navy before World War II. America created this aircraft carrier because they needed a ship that could bring air power anywhere across the ocean. Unlike old battleships that depended on giant guns, Enterprise carried dozens of fighter planes. It was basically a moving airport floating on the sea. Imagine a huge parking lot for airplanes, but the parking lot itself is traveling through the ocean. That was the USS Enterprise. Its aircraft could take off, attack enemies hundreds of kilometers away, and return back to the ship. During World War II, it became one of the most successful warships in history. It proved that the future of naval warfare was not only about building bigger ships, it was about building smarter ones. HMS Dreadnought, the ship that changed everything. The HMS Dreadnought was built in 1905 by the British Royal Navy. Britain created this ship because they wanted a battleship that was faster, stronger, and more powerful than anything before it. Before Dreadnought, battleships carried many different types of guns, but this ship introduced a completely new idea. One ship filled with only large and powerful guns. When it entered service in 1906, older battleships suddenly looked like old machines from another era. It was like bringing a modern smartphone into a world of old telephones. Countries around the world started building their own powerful battleships because nobody wanted to fall behind. The HMS Dreadnought did not just become a powerful ship, it started a global race for naval power. USS Zumwalt, the alien warship. The USS Zumwalt was built in 2011 by the United States Navy as a next-generation stealth destroyer. The goal was to create a warship that looked like something from the future and was difficult for enemy radar to detect. And honestly, it really does look like a spaceship. Its strange, sharp shape helps reduce radar signals, making it harder to find. Inside, it is packed with advanced computers, powerful sensors, and modern weapons. It was supposed to become the future of naval warfare, but there was one enemy that even this futuristic ship could not defeat: the cost. The technology was extremely expensive, and some systems became too costly to operate. The Zumwalt showed the world that building the future is possible, but the future is not always cheap. USS Monitor, the metal box that changed war. The USS Monitor was built in 1861 by the United States Navy during the American Civil War. Engineers created this unusual ship because they needed something that could survive enemy cannon fire. Instead of building another wooden ship, they created something completely different: a floating metal box with armor. The design looked strange, and many people believed it would fail. But the Monitor had a secret weapon, a rotating gun turret that could aim in different directions. During battle, enemy cannonballs struggled to damage its iron armor. This small and strange-looking ship proved that the future of naval warfare belonged to metal ships, not wooden ones. CSS Virginia, the Iron Monster. The CSS Virginia was created in 1862 by the Confederate Navy during the American Civil War. It started as an old wooden ship, but engineers transformed it into a completely different machine. They covered the ship with heavy iron armor and turned it into a floating tank. Enemy cannonballs bounced off its strong sides, making it extremely difficult to destroy. The ship moved slowly through the water like a giant metal monster. It was not fast, and it was not easy to control, but it changed naval history. The CSS Virginia proved that future warships needed protection and armor. Akula-class submarine, the silent predator. The Akula-class submarine was first built in 1986 by the Soviet Union during the Cold War. The Soviet Navy created this submarine because they wanted a powerful underwater weapon that enemies could not easily find. Unlike huge battleships that could be seen from miles away, this machine could disappear beneath the ocean. It could travel long distances while carrying powerful missiles and torpedoes. Imagine a giant metal animal swimming silently below the waves, watching everything above but remaining invisible. That was the danger of the Akula-class submarine. Its greatest weapon was not only its firepower, it was its ability to hide. USS Independence, the fast aircraft carrier. The USS Independence was built in 1942 by the United States Navy during World War II. America needed more aircraft carriers, but building huge carriers took too much time. So engineers tried a different idea. They created a smaller and faster carrier. The Independence could carry aircraft and move quickly through dangerous areas. It was not the biggest ship in the ocean, but it showed that speed could also create power. Sometimes a smaller machine with better movement can be more useful than a giant one. Seawise Giant, the biggest ship ever built. The Seawise Giant was built in 1979 by Sumitomo Heavy Industries in Japan. Unlike the other ships on this list, it was not created for war. It was built to carry massive amounts of oil across the ocean, and it became the longest ship ever constructed. This ship was so huge that normal ships looked like toys next to it. It was basically a floating skyscraper, but its incredible size also created problems. Turning the ship required a huge amount of time and space. The Seawise Giant proved that when something becomes extremely large, controlling it becomes much harder. Kirov-class battlecruiser, the missile monster. The first Kirov-class battlecruiser was built in 1974 by the Soviet Union. The Soviet Navy created this ship to challenge powerful enemy fleets during the Cold War. It was a massive nuclear-powered warship filled with advanced weapons. Unlike old battleships that needed to get close to the enemy, Kirov could attack from long distances using powerful missiles. It was basically a giant floating missile fortress. The ship looked like something from a science fiction movie and became one of the most heavily armed ships ever built.